All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming at a relatively short notice. We'll call to order at 7:31. If you just please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, there are no recommended actions. There's no old business, no project administration. Two items on the agenda, new business. First is discussion action, approval of Pilgrim Construction document ride submission. This would be Westfield, you guys, right?
Set the table?
Yep.
All right, so we are still in the design.
So it's just design, not the bid packages, yeah. Two different things. So
What's that number one?
This is the first one. This is the Pilgrim Construction document submission to RIDE.
Okay, we have completed the, we are about to complete at the end of this month, the Pilgrim design documents. And we would like to, we are seeking approval by the committee to submit them to RIDE for the final review.
So we have performed our budget reconciliation at this time. The budget was within less than 0.1% from the previous submission. So we're right on track with where we thought we would be previously. You're going to be seeing some bid packages a little bit that reflect what we think has been our conservative budgeting to this point. For those, we don't have any stakeholders directly from Pilgrim here today. With that being said, the design has not changed, right? Pilgrim is the one that has not been changing. Pilgrim has the flat site. Pilgrim did not need a significant redesign. There's nothing that would be noticed with the exception of the court size at the gym has been somewhat lengthened to accommodate NCAA striping, if that is so required by the district. That is the only major change that would be seen throughout the plan. And again, the estimating was right on. Our reconciled estimate was within 0.1% of where it was at the design development submission. Real huge support from Rhode Island Department of Education for this project. Again, it doesn't really shift from the educational programming or anything. So we're seeking your approval today to submit to RIDE, and this will be Pilgrim's final submission to the Rhode Island Department of Education. At this point, they would really stop interacting with the project except for financials and during the closeout. So for Pilgrim, this would sort of be our thank you very much. We're on our way.
Any questions for left field?
Yeah, Chris, what are we submitting? The construction drawings?
Yeah, 60% construction documentation. That's what gets submitted.
So RIDE hasn't approved them yet.
RIDE has not approved a 60% CD set. That's why we submit them the 60% CDs. We've already had a meeting with them, though.
This is part of the
Yeah,
process.
this is
So we have to do SD, DD, design development, construction documents. We need both building committee approval and then school committee approval to submit them to RIDE, which happens on Thursday.
But generally what happens in this case, though, let's say that because we go with RIDE hand in hand through every step of the process.
Right.
At this phase, if there are any requests that they make, they're minor. And also what they'll do is they'll give you a conditional approval. They won't make you resubmit. They'll just say, thank you so much for this. Can you make sure that you add, 2 light fixtures in this room, that kind of thing.
So how can we be contemplating awarding bid packages if RIDE hasn't approved the construction drawings?
Because the structure is not going to change.
Yeah. We're not going to be changing the steel. We're not going to change it.
Yeah, they permit the release of early bid packages after the closure of the DD.
Yeah,
Dr. Silva stated that many times.
After you have TD approval, then RIDE will fully reimburse them. That is stated, there's precedent. No issues on that.
I think it's putting the cart before the horse, but that's, there's no GMP, don't have the fund. really know where we're going, but
But this is Ride's process.
This is 100% RISE process. Every single project that's going on in Rhode Island is makes use of early release packages. It's being done everywhere that I've worked, certainly everywhere that I previously worked.
Any other questions for?
The only exception to that would be places where they're doing a hard bid project. And that's not, it's only Central Falls. It's the only city that has a hard bid project.
This is one of the benefits of bringing a construction manager on board with pre-construction right, versus the lump sum bid process.
And these three bid packages will form the interim GMP. So these three bid packages will form our GMP, the interim GMP as it's called. As the other packages come in, those make up the final GMP. So you have a GMP for these three packages.
so what would you say the percent complete as it regards to construction drawings off of steel and concrete?
100%.
They're 100%.
Steel, concrete, and elevators, yeah.
So as you said, the footprint of the building isn't changing.
So the reason it takes so long to
Just
go
wanted
through
to do-
schematic design is because you have multiple back and forth with the Rhode Island Department of Education, because it's their prerogative that you get all of your big changes done in schematic design. That's why you see so much back and forth during the schematic design phase. That's why Tollgate has had so many back and forths, because we had to do a complete redesign of that effort. RIDE is, as opposed to this project, Pilgrim. So RIDE has kept shifting and shifting and shifting, so that once you get your footprint set, then your floor plan set, then RIDE goes into DD and CD.
And the design of the building is the same design that was presented from
Yeah, the only change is the
August?
extension of the basketball court.
summer,
no.
last summer.
It's the exact same design with the one that was presented at the previous large meeting that we had in
Right.
September, October.
Yeah.
Has not changed from that submission.
Yep, except for the
And
enlarged.
to be honest, Tollgate won't really change either. There'll be small modifications to Tollgate as well, but for the average person, the teacher, student, parent, they're not gonna, the changes are not gonna be in any way that
Mhm.
can affect them. There are ways that affect the constructability of the building, allowing us and Divvy to build them for cheaper, for more efficient. Certainly not an educational program.
Any other questions for left field or anyone from Dimeo or Mr. Gothberg? Okay, hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the Pilgrim Construction Document RIDE submission.
So
Moved by Ms. Galori, seconded by Mr. McCaffrey. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You opposed?
No.
Okay, you're approved. Okay. Okay. Was one of those, you were gonna say no? Okay,
So we'll go on to the next item.
okay, thank you. Let's save them keeping your powder dry. All right,
Yes,
all right.
it's holsters.
Next, discussion action, approval of Pilgrim early bid packages for concrete, steel, and elevator. We're gonna take each bid one at a time.
Yes.
So we'll just set the table, I think, that John and Demi would get into it. As you know, we have been conservatively estimating these projects and presenting what we believe are worst case scenarios to ensure that there's not a situation where once we've told you what we believe that the overage is, it does not continue to go over. We think that these three bid packages are a reflection of that conservative estimating. In total, the three bid packages are about $1 million under budget, under what was budgeted. That's about, so just to put it in larger examples, let's say that all the other bid packages came in right in budget. Instead of the 23 million that we're asking for, now we're asking for 22 million because it came in $1 million under budget. So this does not affect, there's also, these three packages do not touch the design and pricing contingency that are even, so that additional money gets shifted downwards. We hope that all packages come in like this. It is, our job is to, some are gonna come a little bit over, some are gonna come a little bit under. We think that these three packages though represent an incredibly good value in the market. We're happy to say that we received 9 bids on the steel package, 9. That is incredible. That is a lot of people bidding on our steel package. I've never had 9 bidders on a project that I've done. I can't say the Dimeo. I'm sure Dimeo has probably had that many before, maybe somewhere, but that's great competition. Would also be, if we have currently selected for steel, we have currently selected an American firm so that the work would not be subject, that steel work would not be subject to any additional tariffs that go downstream. With that, I think, where do you want to start, David?
I'm gonna do concrete first.
Okay.
Concrete's at the top of the list.
Yeah.
We received 4 bids. Marguerite, J.L. Marshall, Manafort Brothers, and Capasso Enterprises. The low bid was Marguerite, $5,597,000. Dunia has done de-scoping. Actually, you want to speak to the de-scoping process? But
Why don't I help you real quick? So how this works is we put these bids out on the street. We receive bids back. We go through a thorough de-scoping exercise with Demio, Left Field, and the owner. We all get in a room. We make sure that they're carrying everything. We then look at items where we believe we might have allowances for things that we might think that we need a little bit of extra protection for. And then we say back to the bidders, thank you. We'd like your best and final now. And then they submit best and final pricing. Dan, Mark, did I leave anything out of that?
nope.
When you guys fire me out, I'll go work for that.
But I did sit in on all, scope reviews, very thorough. The whole team looked at everything. We were allowed to ask questions. I had some questions on certain things, but, very thorough. I was very pleased with the process.
I just asked Dan and Mark, is this a company you've dealt with before? And what's been your experience?
All the time.
I used Marguerite 30 years ago, so yeah.
Yeah, sure.
If they can deliver?
Yes.
Definitely.
So we had a budget of $5.85 million for this item. There's a bid savings of $253,000 for concrete.
Is this one of the, larger components of the project? Are these 3?
Elevator, not so
Well, not
much.
elevator, concrete and steel.
Concrete steel in your top, I'd say top 7 or 8 packages probably, yeah.
The biggest one are usually the MEPs and site work, and then you would follow that with concrete and steel.
Right. And site work for Pilgrim.
So
Presumably
it's still
shouldn't
gonna
be-
be substantial. It's a large site.
Right, but surprises.
We're not as concerned with site work at Pilgrim as.
Right. Because. the
That's
nature
again,
of the
that's,
site.
that's the reason why we've been so loth to release that $17 million in unallocated contingency that currently makes up 60% of the $23 million overage, just because we don't know what's gonna happen, and we'd rather be much safer than sorry and not have to have our hands up.
Right, and then the savings from these 3 bids, I mean, very rough math, right? You take your 17 million contingency, what you save here kind of adds to that, right?
Yeah.
Although it's not parked there, but it's.
So we
within
like
the
to think of
project
it
itself,
as,
it's there.
we like to think of it at this point in the project, is gonna shift it down to the other packages. So
Right,
it's an
exactly.
additional layer of insulation against in case any of the other packages come in higher than budget. So it's a way of, again, of us keeping ourselves in a position where the numbers come in where we need the numbers to come in at, and that we're not blowing our GMP, essentially. is what-
And Chris, you anticipate the same people probably bidding on the other project, correct?
Yes, we
Okay.
do. We would assume that if most of these companies, at least the bigger ones, that there might be just because of the staggered start, there might be a financial incentive for companies to get both projects, as it were. We might see that in pricing. I'm not sure. We probably will see that in pricing, right? If
That's
they
what I was
easily
thinking.
mobilize from one to the other. We also are hopeful because, you know, that the firms know each other's bids on this, right? So we're hopeful that when Tollgate gets bid out, that they've seen each other's numbers and they sharpen their pencils a little bit as well. So that's me being an eternal optimist as usual, but, you know, I'm hopeful that it does.
And that's what you do see. You do see that. If they lose, if they're competing on the first project, they're gonna tighten things up if they want the second.
As an example, so if you look at the construction manager fee proposals that we've got all throughout, you know, Warwick was one of the first to bring on their construction manager, and there was a large spread between the high bid and the low bid. That spread has been decreased significantly now. So the numbers are about the same, but instead of there being $1 million separating one firm and the next, now it's 100,000. We just received construction manager bids in another district, and The number, the cost is still the same. It's just everybody is now within, $100,000 of each other.
Anything you guys from Timmy would like to add here?
No, I think it's a good company. I think we've got a pretty solid package put together and we're confident with it.
I personally have used Marguerite on 6 projects in the past, a while ago, but solid company, do good work.
And the way we set the agenda, see, we're gonna discuss them, but we're gonna vote on them all at once. Because if, there would have been 3 discussion action items. So, and if someone wants to make a change, if somebody doesn't wants to pull one out, then we'll have to make a motion. Okay. So the second bid was, first was concrete, second was steel?
Elevator.
Elevator, okay, elevator.
Again, 4 bids received, Schindler Otis, TKE, Kone, low bidder was Schindler at 259,000. We had a budget of 375. That's a bid savings of 116,000.
We scoped them good.
Same process applies here with the de-scoping efforts, same as concrete, same applies to all street wall.
And this, we use Schindler and at the Warwick Vets project too. We added an elevator there.
Yeah, this one required a pretty good scope review. The elevator companies are known for change orders. And so we scoped them. Dan and his team did a really, really good job. So I had some hard questions they were answered. This is, and it's a substantial savings for the elevator package.
Okay. How many elevators are going in that building? 2. Okay. The same thing would be with yours,
Yep.
too, right? Okay. Okay. Any questions on the elevator package? Okay. Last one is steel.
Great participation on steel. These bidders. How do you say that? Seves, Norgate, Shepherd Structure, Canatown, Northeast, HB Welding, and I don't know.
Bose Atlas.
Bose Atlas. Low bidder was Seves, 8.4 million. That's a bid savings of $699,500.
I think this does warrant a little bit of an explanation about this bid process, Dan, just because of everything that's going on, in the country right now with steel and tariffs like this. So, Dan, if you wouldn't mind going into, so this market for steel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So, there's basically 2 main manufacturers of steel in the country, and then Canada's obviously a major supplier of steel. The United States. If you look at the bid list, Norgate, Structure, SBL, Canatel, and Bose Atlas are all out of Canada, right? They're based from there. Both Norgate and Canatel were very open that they did include tariff costs that amounted to somewhere between $800,000 and $900,000, which if they did not have that would have been significantly under budget. And so there is an effect of those tariffs coming. Seves does get most of their steel from North Carolina, and they are a United States company. They're pretty large in scale. They do a lot of work in the Northeast, and we're confident with their abilities. They're also utilizing a Rhode Island company, Capco Steel, for the erection portion of the project.
Because you'll pay the tariffs on labor too, right? When Canadian labor comes down here and do it.
Well, they would bring their key personnel from Canada, but not all of their crew. They would end up hiring out of the local haul. But they do have relationships with the erectors from the area as well. So
Simmons does have offices throughout the United States. They've got their local plant is in Maine. They've got them all up and down the United States, the Mountain West Division, Southeast.
All right, so I was questioning, how firm, this number, how firm is it?
It's very firm because that's one of the reasons why we're not going with a Canadian company and betting on the tariffs being rolled back. That's a substantial $900,000 risk.
Hmm.
We don't know I have no confidence in that what is today out of the federal government in terms of tariffs is gonna be what is tomorrow in terms of tariffs out of the federal government, so.
So once we issue a contract to Sylvase, they issue their mill order and that locks in the pricing across the board. So once we say, yes, go and issue them that contract, then those numbers are locked in.
Questions?
Yeah, it's Civez,
Yes.
Civez. Why do they exclude any impending tariff costs? That's their number one exclusion.
So,
So there's gotta be some Canadian steel on this project.
well, a
We just
lot of
don't
the
know.
raw goods come from Canada,
Right.
right? Once those raw goods are in America, and once it's locked in, it's locked in. So every single subcontractor is gonna carry that exclusion from here on out because it's a big unknown, right?
So we still have exposure is what you're saying?
No, once we lock in with the contract, we're locking in with the contract.
And this is the price for that contract.
Well, that's with some allowances. I see you had a lot of allowances here.
Yeah, if you want to go through the allowances, right, the beam penetrations, once we issue, mechanical, plumbing, and fire protection contracts, we go through a coordination process. In certain instances, you end up having beam penetrations, right? They're not really identified until you get through that coordination process.
Right.
Shoring of the structural deck is really for once we're pouring concrete in order to minimize any sagging of the deck. In certain areas with long spans, we'll wind up shoring it. Gym equipment, obviously, as we start to lock in the gym equipment down the road, there could be some additional steel required to support basketball backstops or, anything hanging from the structure. And then mechanical equipment done, it's the same thing. Once we get the actual equipment locked in from the different manufacturers, because right now there's 3 manufacturers out there, each of them have different requirements for what you would need for damage. So we carry an allowance for that to lock in the mechanical side of things. Once again, go through the coordination. And then the last one is just interior CTC equipment steel, right? As we start to hone in on the actual equipment that goes into the CTC space, there might be additional supports needed in the walls or the structure to support that. So what we do with the allowance is we go through, as we go through the scope through process, we identify any areas that may not be fully nailed together. And we build the allowances in to make sure that we're protecting the owner and ourselves from any unnecessary change orders down the road.
And during the review, it was conservative allowances. It wasn't lowballing.
No, I noticed that Civez included 100 beam penetrations for 59.5, which you deducted, and you included $100,000.
Yep.
So
That would we control it and the money comes back to us versus them playing games with it.
Yeah, because you know how it is. Armin, you were on the other side of the table.
yeah,
Credits come back pennies on the dollar. So we'd rather have the unit price and have the, as opposed to saying, well, you gave us a bid for 50, we only use 20, give us half back. And then we'll come up with 1,000,001 reasons why they're not going to give us.
well, the presumption is it's going to be more than 100 beam penetrations because at $595 per penetration, you would have kept that if you thought it would be 100 or less. So why are we including an allowance that's almost twice what they included for penetrations?
I don't think we anticipate to have over 100 deep penetrations. We pulled it out because we would prefer to carry it on our side of the ledger versus theirs.
But their ads for beam penetrations in the field would be more than if you had kept their original beam penetration number.
And we don't anticipate doing it in the field. We anticipate doing it through the shop process.
I got it. The shoring, that kind of concerns me that there's, it seems because the steel has been lightened so much, now we need to possibly shore the slab on deck pours.
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you look at even the roof deck, right? There's no concrete on the roof deck.
Right.
So once you load that roof, you might need to put some shoring in there for whatever you're putting up for your walls above the roof line, right? We're carrying that as an allowance because once again, we'd rather hold it on our side. It needs to be engineered, taken care of correctly.
Right. Yeah, the tariff thing really concerns me though. It just,
That's on all the bids,
Yeah, you're
even the
gonna-
elevator business, that's
everything-
same
no one-
point number one, it's
No
almost like a
company right now
boilerplate.
is not going to add language about that. I mean, I know,
Nothing to prevent Cives from saying, we're gonna buy all our Canadian
Maybe-
steel because it's gonna be cheaper, and then bang us for the tariffs.
they,
What percent of Canadian steel is in this bid package? No one can tell me.
I mean, once we lock in the price, we
Mhm.
lock in the price. That's that they
With
have
the
to hold. They
exclusion, the
can't,
tariffs
yeah,
don't
but
apply.
they can't come back to us and say, we gave you a price. Oh, now we don't have the steel and we're gonna go get Canadian. Come on, I mean, we could do this all day. You can come up with $1,000,000 and you know what you're doing is not in good faith right now. I mean, you know, you and I have
Don't
a
say
good
that.
relationship.
I'm a taxpayer, Chris. You're not. You don't have standing. I have standing, okay? You know, Cives bill was started at 850, and then we added all these allowances because the design isn't complete. That's why.
I wouldn't say it's not because the design isn't complete, right? You're never gonna get all of those deep penetrations in the design. That's part of the coordination process. Right? The architect's not gonna identify all that sort of stuff. It's really means and methods.
I mean, it's a 60% CD plans and specs. That's what it reflects. So when it goes to 100%, do we have exposure? Is
We're not-
Cives gonna claw back and say, well, now that we're 100%,
But we wouldn't go out to bid on the, we've already said that these scopes are at 100%.
So when you look at the design process, right? Obviously, the structure and site work are really the ones that are completed first as the architectural details continue down the process. So the overall document set that was issued is the 60% construction document that will be issued to RIDE as well. However, the structural set of those documents are further along than the document set that is stamped.
further along, but they're not at the finish line yet.
Oh, they're never gonna be at the finish line until,
Until we get the as-bills, right? Because things, I mean, you've done this for a long time. There might be a couple things that change in the field, and that's why we carry the allowances to make sure that we're not having our hand out, that we've already got the money, but it's on our side of the ledger so that we can release it back into the project if we need without sticking our hand out to the taxpayer for more money, We'd rather be conservative now, and we know that we knew those allowances were, to some people, they see the allowances as padding, or we see it as
No,
being conservative, we're trying to avoid having our
Protecting
hand out.
ourselves is what we're doing.
Yeah,
Does Demio have a construction contract yet, or are they still operating under the pre-con?
these three packages will form the basis of their GMP contract, the interim GMP contract, which has been all the terms have been negotiated and we're ready to go.
But do they have a contract for construction?
That's what this is. That's what these packages are. We had this contract and going to their,
so we have an AIA contract, and this will be the GMP amendment to that AIA contract.
right now, the only thing we're paying for is pre-con. This would kick in the others.
But there's no GMP in the contract currently.
Well, we don't have any packages yet, so this is the first one.
Are these all 30 days to lock in? All three? Steel, concrete?
They all put 30 days on there, but we negotiated. We can do 30, 90. We just have the conversation with them. If we needed to hold their numbers for a little bit longer, we would say, look, you guys gotta hold your numbers for another month or two. And then if they say no. we would say,
But that
"Okay,
is-
the next bidder." But-
Those conversations were a lot easier to have a month ago, which is why, again, we're so anxious about getting this work awarded, getting these contractors locked in for what we think is a really good price.
I mean, there's a tremendous amount of exclusions that they do. Is Demio confident that the allowances are gonna cover all the exclusions?
Yeah, the majority of their exclusions are standard exclusions that really don't mean very much to us. We go through every single one of them in the scope review process to understand exactly what they're trying to say. And then at the end of the day, when we go to a contract, you will not see any of those exclusions in it. Their quote really goes out the window once our contract is issued.
They don't have missed metals, which is standard. They don't have notches, loose lintels, bridging. Typical details not located or not applicable. S500, 5, 6, 12, 14, S601, number 2, number 4. I'm not familiar with what that means, but
It's really, no, but if you go through the documents, right, there's a lot of standard connection details
yeah.
that are not always used. They're identifying the ones they did not find on the actual documents. And all that we worked out through the detailing process.
It says payment for raw materials received at the fabricating plant will be paid without retention. Civez will bill for raw material as soon as payment is made to the mill, typically within 10 days. It sounds like we're paying 100% of what they consider material, what they're gonna bill for material, so.
They will bill for stored materials, yeah.
We'll have backup for all that. There'll be photo documentation and invoices and such.
And insurance.
And all the invoices come back to this committee for approval too.
Can you speak to performance bonds?
Yeah, so I guess what is the question about performance bonds? Whether you require the subcontractors to carry them or not? Yeah, we typically do require them to carry them unless we're carrying our own subcontractor default insurance program, which is basically Demio carrying the subcontractor bonds for all the subcontractors. But one way or another, they're either bonded or they're covered under our insurance. So if anybody was to go out of business, it will be covered by either the bonding agency or Demio's bonding agency.
I thought we should use, you've used dual obligee bonds, right, where the sub bonds, Demio and the owner.
Well,
And we don't pay you for the bond because we bond all the subs.
so right now we have both.
Yeah, we have to.
That's a duplication. You don't need both.
We've tried to, so yeah, you're right. The payments, we agree with you. State law, and we've gone through this multiple times. We've even had, in a community that really doesn't care, like such as North Providence, who often goes toe to toe on issues like this, even they were forced to, ended up being forced to carry the payment performance bond. So we've tried multiple times to get away without carrying it by saying that Demio is a whatever, $100 billion a year company. We can look at their books are open. They're not gonna fail, all of these reasons why. The state still makes us carry our payment performance bonds.
On both the CM and all the trade packages?
On the full package, on everything.
Is that per ride? Or-
Not sure what
It's-
the state law, yeah. Because
Any project with state funding over a certain dollar value, I want to say 200,000. It might have been raised to $300,000 recently, but anything over a certain dollar value is, we're all forced to carry.
we've tried, we got resolutions from the North Providence Town Council. We had, multiple different legal entities involved and
So they've already tried to address the situation.
yeah.
We tried to get it value engineered out.
Yeah, we want why? Because it's exactly as you're saying. Why are we?
Yeah.
It's taxpayer money. Why are we paying double for this? Especially when a company like Demio, who's not going to go insolvent. If this was, Dave Testa's erection company, you know what I mean? Maybe I'd want to carry
That's
it.
just been recorded.
I'm sorry.
You having issues?
I'm not trying to read my canvas.
Wow. You just went down the rabbit hole.
Steal anyway. I'm just going to stop talking.
Any other questions?
I'm all set.
Anyone else have any questions for, either left field or the Demio people? All right, so we've discussed all three. So now what I would do is I look for a motion to approve the early bid packages as submitted. Right, okay.
So move.
Moved by Ms. Calori, second. Seconded by Mr. Kravitz. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. Motion carries. Jen, just one dissenting vote. Sure. Okay. All right. Next is public comment. There are a couple members of the public. Councilman, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
No time limit.
That's a mistake.
That's a big mistake.
Thank you. Am I allowed to ask questions or is this strictly comment?
Strictly.
Yeah, it's strictly comment, but if you want to hang around and ask them, I mean, they'll stick around.
It's no secret that I'm not a supporter of this project. That's been known since the beginning. There's things even today that I hear that concern me because I don't hear a lot of definite yeses or definite nos. What I'm hearing is typically do, we think, we anticipate, we assume. We've always done it that way. I haven't heard anything about guaranteed price. I haven't heard anything about escalation clauses. I agree with Mr. Lucy when he says that this appears to be putting the cart before the horse. Because A, we don't have 100% complete plans. Me, as a taxpayer, have no idea what the cost is gonna be. No one's answered the question as to what happens when you get to 350 and you're stopped and you're not done. And the taxpayers haven't had another opportunity to say whether or not they agree with this. They agree to pay an extra 23 million or 20 million, 17 million or 50 million. So this process, to me, the way this has been done, it's quite clear that no matter what, and here I am speaking after the vote is already taken, so obviously it's moot points. This process has been simply geared to, we're getting it done, regardless of what the numbers come in. We're getting this done. We're moving, we're getting these two schools done. I object to it as a taxpayer. I object to it as the chairman of the finance committee and the city council, and I object to it on behalf of all my constituents. This process has not been clear. We still, at this moment, you just made somewhere around 10 or 11 or 20 million dollars, whatever these numbers add up to, and we don't have completed documents. You say nothing's gonna change. Well, it's been doing nothing but changing for the last 6 or 7 months or a year. We get up to toll gate, we find wetlands we don't know. We go back there, we find more wetlands. So forgive me if I'm not confident that there's not going to be additional changes, but more importantly, I'm concerned about additional costs. And these are some of the reasons why I just object to this entire project in this process. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Holmes or Mr. Vicente? Okay. All right, committee member request for future consideration, you know, how that goes. Future business, the next regular meeting is April 2nd. If there's no other business, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Glory, seconded by Mr.
Second.
Kravitz and Mr. Lucy, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna talk.